in, put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good evening, everybody. Tuesday, the 10th of September, 2024. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your host, Zac and Toby, brought to you, as always, by Best on Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. How are you this evening, bud?
Mate, they can't hurt me anymore. That's how I am. My weekends are not filled with tremendous amount of emotional fluctuations. Is the best way to put that.
Yep, so round 27 has been and gone. Yep. And West Tigers in true fashion, something, albeit minor, to play for, packed home crowd, a lot of big build-up to the game. Absolutely shit the bed. But I think, we're not going to go into that game to a great extent. I don't think it's really worth going into doing an autopsy on it. But we might maybe put a bit of context around it as well. Other than that, we got a bit of an off-season to march towards, mate.
We do. We've got a couple of rays of light coming through, so to speak, after another very bleak season. We have collected our third straight wooden spoon, I believe, as you said. And yeah, it's hard to really put into words how hollow that feeling was, but even the Daily Telegraph says that next year we will not get a fourth. So they didn't do anything to support us. So you know what? That's a big thing.
It's hard not to. And all you got to do is have a look at the lineup on the weekend that we did field against Parramatta.
Yep.
And just make a comparison to who we think, and this is very early stages, obviously, and a lot of speculation, to put it lightly, but who we think has a chance of being there next year and who won't be. I mean, if I go through and look at the team list now, Heath Mason won't be the fullback. It'll be Jareem Buller. Tupou is one of the Dolphins, and we're likely to have Skelton on one wing, left or right, not sure. Fatape is a reserve grader. He won't be there. Full strength, you would assume. Justin Olam, hopefully returning from his knee surgery, should be good to go. Josh Folletti won't be there. You're likely to have Taruva, we've heard, if not anybody else incoming. Charlie Staines likely won't be there if there's anything to the Marcelo Montoya rumours. And even still then, you've got a Luke Leilua who will be another year older and pushing for selection then. And based upon what we saw from Charlie on the weekend, he's going to be struggling to retain that spot. We've got Galvin, probably the first lock at the moment, as in locked in. At the side, probably next year in that six. I think it'd be pretty hard to argue otherwise. But the man that might be the only person to contest that would be Latu, who was in 7 on the weekend. And as good and impressive as Latu's been in his handful of games that we've seen, Jerome Luai walks backwards into that side and probably the captaincy. Steph, Melbourne, that's all that needs to be said there. Happy and Clemmer probably retain their spots. Would you agree?
I'd say so. Yep. After that game, and I know we don't want to talk too much about it, but I said it in our chat that for me, Clemmer was the only leader that stood up out of every one of them. And he looked like he wanted to win more than some of even our youth who have been leading a lot of that charge. So, yes, I think he will keep his spot.
He did his job.
Yep.
Seafarth in the second row. I mean, he's a chance, but he's certainly not a lock like the person who's in the other second row, Samuel Afenu.
Mm-hmm.
He has his hands all over that side. And Isaiah Papali'i's gone to Penrith as well. Then we've got Sione Fainu, currently unsigned, but a chance. I think they've been impressed. I think they're looking for the spots to fill to get him there. Fanua Pole will be there at some stage. Many, myself included, think probably starting prop to replace Stefano.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Twal, a fair chance as a backup player, and Tony Sukar, I think it's probably highly unlikely at this stage that he's the person that, at this stage, is in the 17, not least if we're trying to upgrade. We've got to fit people like Royce Hunt in. We've got to fit Jack Bird in. I mentioned Montoya earlier. We've got Taruva, we've got Skelton, we've got Luai. So a vastly different side that needs to be said. Now, we will talk about it because it was a game we're reviewing, but we won't talk about it ad nauseum because we've got a lot of stuff to get through in the show.
Yep.
Which is effectively our season wrap. But, mate, what happened on the weekend? Why did that happen? Because that's not a reflection of where these sides are. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
The Eels are not 34 points and a flogging better than us. So what happened?
For me, it was I think the youth that we have were probably a bit nervous. It's a big game, regardless of what the outcome was. It was always going to be a big game for them because there's a packed crowd. It's the last game of the season, and there is something big to play for. It's something big to not win more than anything.
There was build up to it, no doubt.
Absolutely, and I think the nerves got to the young guys, which is where the senior leadership is supposed to come in, take control, and they didn't in any way, shape, or form, apart from probably Clemmer. It was so frustrating to watch because, in first and foremost, Appy, I think I love him, but I think it has been very clear this year that he is not captaincy material. I don't think he is loud enough. I don't think he is opinionated enough. And he leads by example, which is phenomenal. But he needs to do more of that talking out there. So I think it's gotten to him. I think he can't play his natural game. He tries to take the team on his back consistently. And I think that got to him as well, which was frustrating. But like you said, and you stole my my prediction before of Luai being the captain. I think by far Luai will probably be next year's captain. I think that's, for me, how he's led Penrith this year without Cleary. You know, you might say Isaiah Yeo obviously would have been very vocal out there, but no more than Luai.
Yeah.
So I think he'll take over captaincy next year, and I think you'll see a better Appy. I think he just plays his natural game, and he does what we need him to do week in and week out.
There's more than just Appy that went wrong though. So
it was. I'm still going to go through them rest, but
yeah,
I'm telling you that's my thought about Appy.
Yeah.
Steph, he's supposed to be one of our senior props. He already had his bags packed, and he looked like he owed us nothing. He played one of the worst games I've ever seen a front rower play, ever. And I don't think Bellamy would be impressed with that. I think he'll probably put him through the ringer, trying to make sure that he understands what work ethic is, because I don't think he understands that yet.
Just for a bit of context around what Toby's talking about, our two starting props, Stefano and David Clemmer, ran for 50-something metres each.
Yep.
Yeah. So they combined for just over 100 metres between them. So Clemmer as well. That puts a bit of context around it. We did do a lot of defending at certain points in time and made chances.
At least Clemmer ran with intent when he did have the ball.
It's more the defensive side, Stefano, that had me scratching or raising a brow. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
I think that they're probably the three main guys that really stood out for me that should have lifted. I think Papali'i, I didn't even know he was on the field half the time. He really didn't do much in my eyes, which was it's the leaders that we think, or we assume were the leaders of the club, are the ones that were leaving. They couldn't get out the door quick enough, and that's clearly what they think of their teammates and their club. So that's what went wrong for me. The youth got nervous, and the leadership didn't take ownership of that, and it got to us. And then by the end of it, it was like foregone conclusion we were going to win it, so they just didn't care and they gave up.
You reckon they gave up?
Absolutely. All of them? No. but the ones that mattered.
Yeah. In terms of what I think went wrong, it was just a case sometimes it happens with clubs that the harder you try, the worse it gets. And that's what seemed to happen. The first half was simply a case of whichever team was less hopeless enough to hold on to the football was going to win, at least the first half.
Mm.
And we went toe-to-toe with them for the majority of that first half until they blew out with a couple of tries towards the back end. It got to the point where it just summarised our season so well, and right down to Latu Fainu hitting the goalpost at the end of the game. Like that was our season in a nutshell.
Mm.
There was penalties, there was unforced sin bins, as in completely unnecessary to happen. Wasn't trying to turn a game or trying to, in some act of desperation. It was a one-on-one tackle that didn't need to happen. The amount of drop football, mate, the amount of soft drop football was just outrageous. Like it was incredible. Absolutely, what was it? Something like 15 errors or worse, and they finished the game with barely an error in the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes from memory. So, yeah, it was just, and I'm going back to it. And I don't want to be going back to it because it was horrendous viewing. But they could not have tried any harder to bottle that game. And then you mentioned they gave up. I don't think professional footballers personally ever give up, but once the game was gone, and they then play with reckless abandon, which just compounds errors, and then it just leads to more stuff. And I'll add to that Parramatta had all sorts of just ridiculous tries fall their way. There was an intercept try. There was a fumble in the in goal that just bounced straight into someone's hands. There was a pass from Seyfarth in our own in goal that goes straight to Gutherson for a try. And you take those away, all of a sudden it's 42-28. As bad as we were. And those are just like intercepts, balls bouncing that way. It's luck of the draw. And, so it was just a case. There was just no luck. There was no discipline. There was very little intent. Parramatta actually looked like in the first 20 minutes they were actually there to play, and they were getting up and whacking our blokes. We made bugger all territory. I think we made something like 33 yards on average or something, 33 metres per set over the game. They are up in the 40s, as you'd expect most teams to be. And so, yeah, I don't know why that happened. But as much as I'm laughing and speaking with a bit of vitriol in my voice about it, or a bit of mockery about it, I do think that it's not a reflection, and I know this sounds counterintuitive based on what I said about Latu's goal, but it's not a reflection of not so much the year we've had. I think that game was a good reflection of the year we've had, but I don't think it's a reflection of where the side is and where the squad is and where the club is on the trajectory that we're on. I think that's more of an outlier. Just as I don't think Manly the week before was an accurate indication, us beating a full-strength Manly side with teenagers in the side, was an accurate reflection of where we are either. We're not going to do that against Manly, 90% of the time at the moment. So we can sort of chalk that up to absolutely just shit the bed, I think, again. But as we know, and as we've said multiple times, this is a long journey and a long rebuild. And unfortunately, again, 2 wins and a bye and a bit of build up around the Spoon Bowl concept at home. Sold lots of tickets. It built a lot of hype up, and so when that was produced, it probably seemed worse than what it really is. Which, like I said at the start of the show, if you played that match again, I reckon 100 times out of 100, that would not be the scoreline or even close to it. So, yeah, I'm going to put that one behind us. I'm going to put the season behind us, and we're just going to focus on building this squad and building into 2025.
Well, I mean, you have a look at some of the signings that have, we're trying to move on now. We know that Benji was a big part of Bud coming to the Tigers and everything like that. But you'd have to think that if Richo was in charge, he would have had a very stern word to Benji about it. About, do you really think this is where we need to go? And that's the thing. That I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, we'll talk in a sec about, you put up a couple of questions for our listeners about the season and things like that. And one of them was the biggest positive or improvement. And for me, I think it's very clear when Richo joined that he has, in a way, mentored Benji more so in a side layout or a side lineup, because you have a look at the players that were signed, and it's hard. Like, I know you're not a huge fan of the Bird signing, but the signings that we have made since December last year, I think it's the first time in a long time, a first time probably ever, that we have unanimously agreed that every one of those signings is for a very specific purpose, and it's a good signing. And you think back to the year prior when Benji was left to his own devices. This is a rookie coach. Remember that. He wasn't even coaching then. He was an assistant coach. Sheens was apparently the coach. And you have a look at those signings that came off the back of that. I don't think anyone is really still there at the end of this year, apart from maybe Bateman. And Appy, obviously, but
Bateman's highly unlikely to be there.
Yeah.
Heard that he's told his manager he doesn't want to come back, so they'll figure something out around that. I dare say he won't be back. And we've been speaking about Bird in the last week, and if and when Bateman doesn't come back, I think Bird's a fair chance to probably line up in the other second row spot, just out of consistency, and he can play second row, and it's a decent enough replacement, certainly like for like, with what our output has been with Bateman in the last 2 years, and on half the price, which is kind of the goal of upgrading your squad in many ways.
Absolutely.
Hopefully with a few less penalties and a few less errors.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention as well, of all players, to have an absolute blinder for Parramatta, how good was Micah Sevo randomly? Like, you talk about the bloke that's been absolutely busted for 2 years, got no knees, can't run, hopeless under the high ball, slippery hands, and he just looks like a superstar. He looks like Semi-Rad Raja from 6 to 8 years ago. Like, it just, it was shocking. It was shocking.
It was annoying. It was annoying, but at the same time, I feel that Charlie Staines made him look better as well.
No, he was awful, mate.
Yeah, he was not good. No. But yeah, like you said, we can sweep this one under the rug. We don't want to harp on it anymore. As you mentioned, it's not a reflection of where we currently are. Well, we don't feel it is anyway. We feel like we are definitely on the upward trajectory, regardless of what that. I mean, the wins column speaks for itself. I mean, we won more than last year. Benji is a rookie coach, and he won more games than 2 seasoned veterans. I mean, Madge was gone just after July, I think. So it's fair to say then Kamali, who is you can see what he's doing with the NRLW side. He's not a coach.
Poor old Noddy. Seems like a nice bloke, and he's had a bit of a rough trot in his personal life and whatnot. But mate, he's not a coach's boot.
He's not a coach.
I know it's ironic with Benji there, but
I think he could be a very good half coach, like a halves coach.
Yeah, for sure.
Cooper Cronk does. Mental. But I don't think
he's done it all, and
he's won premierships. He's won Origins. He's done everything.
We're off track with
Noddy. Yeah. So, but you think about that, like, imagine 2022. Fair to say that he was everything that had gone on that year. We can count. You can notch that up to why we finished where we did. Sheens was apparently the next one, and he's a seasoned veteran, and he got 4 wins as well. Benji in his first rookie year got 2 more than that, 3 more than that. So it's an improvement under a rookie coach. I love the fact that nobody's mentioning that either. It's like, oh, he got another wooden spoon. I'm like, yeah, but we still won more games. So what?
Yeah. It's like we said, we're playing the long game, and it really was a bit of a wet blanket on what looked like a positive uptick at the back end of our season, which is what we were all hoping for. Had we won that game, and we're not sitting there in 17th position, and we won 3 games on the trot to end the year, it's almost hard to argue that the West Tigers aren't on the rise, given the way we would end the season, given everyone we had unavailable at the back end of the year. Olam, Buller, 1,000 others that I'm gonna forget. Caesar there, one on the weekend. And then given the fact that we've got those coming in. So it was a missed opportunity in that regard. But
yeah.
Anyway, mate, we're going to move on because we've got a bit to get through with this season review, as it were. And without much further ado, I might just kick it off. So today, folks, we said last week on our episode that we were going to throw the doors open to everybody, on all the listeners. And we did that today across our social media spaces. So basically gave an opportunity for everybody who was interested to share their thoughts on 5 key categories, which were overall grade for the year, biggest disappointment, biggest positive, the main area to improve, and the thing that pleases you the most about where the club is heading. And I said that with a caveat of keeping it optimistic.
Yeah.
So, mate, I'll just rip through the first little bunch now. Now, folks, we had them in the vicinity about 40 or 50 responses, and I only put this up at lunchtime. So thank you, everybody, for getting involved and having a good go. There's some really awesome responses in here. We'll get through all of them, I promise, but I might have to paraphrase and rush through a couple because there are a few essays in there, even though I said no essays. But no, it's all good stuff. So without much further ado, John, season started off well, 2 wins, too many sin bins. He gave us a D-. Boys playing against men. He said some of the wins at Campbelltown and Leichhardt were good, especially the crowds. Too many risky plays in our half. He said next year we'll finally have a great spine. He said Richo's trying to balance the squad, which we can see. You spoke to that before, in particular areas of need. We've got too many youngsters. The new signings are good, and the youngsters will be better for it. A year older and a great mentor in Richo and Benji, I think he's referring to there. Nick Hayes, overall grade D, biggest disappointment, another spoon. Biggest positive, Galvin, I dare say there's going to be a few of them.
Yeah.
An area to improve, moving up the ladder. Yeah, that's 100%. That would be good. And thing that pleases him the most, the roster changes in key positions. And that's a really good one. We're going to hear a bit of that as well. Guys, we don't repeat ourselves, but that's because people are thinking the same stuff.
Yeah.
That's okay. He said Luai is one of the best halves in the game, no doubt. That's been proven this year. It's going to accelerate Galvin's development. I think he's going to go to another level. I know I'm not Nostradamus for saying that. Skelton and Montoya, that was me, sorry. Skelton and hopefully Montoya will add some kick return aggression. Hunt has the capability of trampling defensive lines, and Bird has the experience, attitude, discipline, stance on the field, on and off. All right. Gail and Sam Constantino. Now, sorry, I don't know if it's Gail or Sam. They've got overall grade D once again. Biggest disappointment the last round. Yeah, we spoke about that. It was definitely a wet blanket. Biggest positive, Richo and Galvin. Main area to improve, defence. Ray, F. Just not good enough for Ray. So we're not even getting into the D minuses. Ray's given us a big fat F. Biggest disappointment, lack of leadership from senior players. Ray, you've probably heard us beat that one to death. Positives, the improvement and potential shown by the young guys. Mason, Galvin. Improvement needed, defence. Obviously, yeah. And optimism, recruitment of good coaches and players will improve the team in the next season. And this is one of my favourite quotes from the whole day. He said, fuck off, we're building.
Oh, I love Ray.
How good's Ray?
I might wrap off a few of mine just so that you're not talking all the time.
I will say, though, I've only got one more in this thread, and then I was going to throw it to you anyway. So,
well, then you finish yours then, mate.
Well, let me, mate. I would have finished had you not interrupted me.
But you just kept waffling on.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a waffler, mate. James said he went to that shit house of a game, spent about $500, got me his para supporting brother and Tiger's dad to it as well. Something like 4 hours in traffic from Chatswood, past a bushfire in the M7 to watch that pig of a game. What I don't get is how everyone just shrugs and continues to think it's all good. 17,000 people to watch the worst rugby league team in history.
Well, that's a big call.
That's debatable. We've won 2 more games this year than the last 2 years, so we can't be worse than that. I'm a proper diehard fan, but I think it might be time for me to stay home because F this shit. James, mate, 100%. You're entitled to feel that way. And as I said before, that was me all weekend. And luckily, we record this on a Tuesday because I've calmed down a bit. So we're going to be all right. And I know that that's blatant positivity. And I'm sorry if that's not what you need to hear, but we're going to be all right. And you're going to be here when we're flying. I guarantee it.
Right. You can't. What did I say when I was at the Titans game? And I heard someone say it. He's like, if you can't be with us through the hard times, you don't deserve to support us in the good times, mates. Just be with us through the hard times, and you'll be the top of the ladder for the good times.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll all be there. Funny that someone said that at the Titans game because Titans don't have good times, do they?
I don't know. Worst franchise in the league. I'm still adamant. I think that from where we are now, from what we are heading towards, and what the Titans are doing, they're the shittest establishment. I hate them.
Yeah, right. And last one from me, and then I'll throw it to you. Jason said, overall grade F. Biggest disappointment, there's two. He had discipline, and the second was Bateman. He said he had such high hopes for what he was going to do for culture, and he's done bugger all. Biggest positive, Richo. He'll arguably end up the best signing. I reckon that's a fair shout in our history.
I said that when we signed him.
Main area to improve defence. It's been horrible. Misses, reads. And the final thing, or the thing that pleases him most, is the youngsters. And that is going to be a trend as we keep moving through these responses, mate. Over to you.
All right, so I've got Joe. He gave us, I think this is the best one I'll see. I will probably go through. He gave us a C. C grade, pass mark. Biggest disappointment, winning the spoon again, obvious. Biggest positive is the emergence of the young talent. We have it at our disposal for the next 10 years. Very fair. Richo's appointment a close second. Biggest area for improvement is a defensive process.
Hopefully we have it for 10 years.
Yes. A defensive process and mindset that will allow us to compete at the highest level. West will win another premiership within the next 3 years. Whoa, that's a big call, Joe.
Joe.
Like that's a big call.
Did you, hang on, was Joe in that car with Josh Adokar the other night? When he Joey, mate, hey, I'm on to you.
Yeah, well, mate, if it keeps you in this mindset, it's all good.
Just don't drive.
Just don't drive. Just get Adokar to drive. We got Brandon here, gave us a D-, pretty common score so far. Biggest disappointments, he's listed off some names here. Number 3 is Steph. Number 2 is Bateman. Number 1 is Bud Sullivan. Bud Sullivan is a great example of the old establishment doing shit signings for overs. Absolutely overrated, and sooner he goes, the better. The biggest positive is Galvin and our man Sam.
Yeah.
Their combination is going to be absolutely crucial for building this team up. Can't stress that enough. Very, very, very true, and I 100% agree. Main areas to improve, starting our sets better, line speed and defense, discipline, and no brain explosions. Looking at you, Safer. Is Brandon? His name's Brandon Willis. Is that your pseudonym, Zach? Sounds like something you would say.
No, not at all.
Yeah, okay.
Never heard of it. No.
Yeah, sure. The thing that pleases you the most about the club in the heading, the new signings, they will definitely bring a culture shift. We need a better mentality and mindset for the top 30 next year. We see too many times we have lost the mental side of being in the game and sticking for the full 80. I believe by bringing in the new signings, we will hopefully see a culture shift and driving standards on and off the field. Great job on this season, podcast this season. It's been a tough year. I can see the club turning around for next year. Thanks, mate. I didn't even know that was going to be a shout out to us. Appreciate it.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for that.
Yeah, cheers, Brandon.
It has been tough remaining positive, but
it's been hard. I'll tell you something. Doing some of these podcasts, I'm denied about how long they're going to last for in terms of the duration of the podcast. Let's just fucking get it over with. Yeah. Let's just do it. But somehow we still managed to punch out an hour. So
yeah, just about every week. It'll I'll tell you what, it'll sort you out. Nothing tests your love for talking about the club that you support, like settling up for a podcast after a thrashing.
Yep. If people aren't aware, Zach and I are absolutely hammered right now, so that's how we can talk about it. As he has a drink. Yeah, there you go.
It's clear, mate.
It's called vodka. Lance Koshney. Not that my opinion means much, but I'll give the Tigers a D-. Your opinion means everything, mate. Don't ever say that.
That's why we ask you.
Yeah. Biggest disappointment. It's probably a tie between the worst offensive team in the comp again. He said that in capitals, and being the worst disciplined team by a country mile. Biggest positives, probably our improvements in attack. Yeah, fair. Along with the development of our junior players such as Galvin, Latu, Sam, Mason, De Silva, etc. Main areas to improve, same as biggest disappointments, our inconsistent defensive displays and our severe lack of discipline. The thing that pleased me the most, that the independent review has been taken on board and that we have Shane Richardson to ensure that the necessary changes will finally be made across the entire football club. That's actually really good. That's really cool that he's put that. I 100% agree. 100% agree, because there was always the opportunity that these suggestions were going to be given, and they'd be like, you know what, we'll just go with what we've always done. Most of the signings we have next year are very promising and much needed in bolstering our backline. Again, also our junior footballers rising through the grades. Combination of Luai, Partney, Galvin in the halves should win us more football games next season. Right? He asked that as a question. I agree. I think it will. Yes, it will. Galvin and Luai.
Yeah.
I'll do one more and I'll fling back to you. So Peter Kemp, he gave us an overall grade of D-. Biggest disappointments, the massive points conceded and the number of sin bins. Fair. Biggest positives, he's got Sam and Richo. Areas to improve, defense. So defense. Discipline and a never say die attitude. Thank you, Peter. All right, I'll jump back to you, Zach, for you got some more on your end.
Yeah, mate. And I know that there's a few of these guys, but we want to give everybody a chance who bothered to sit down and type their responses an opportunity to read out, because that takes effort and commitment. So we promise that, and 100% that's what we're going to do. So Peter Brand, he's given us a C-. Biggest disappointment was Sullivan. Positive was Galvin. Improvement, defence. It pleases him is that the CA tells the truth. And he's upfront and honest, and he's driven to succeed 100%. That's a good one, and that's unique. I like that, Pete.
Yeah, 100%.
Derek has said D+ up from a D-. Biggest disappointment, and much like you read out earlier, I'm sorry I forgot the name of the post that posted it, but a list of names, and most of them are senior players. Bateman, Papali'i. I liked Papali'i when he came back. I thought he worked hard, but it's probably Papali'i's been here 2 years. Probably his better year.
I'd say that.
Sorry, it's not my opinion just yet. Tupou, Steph, Naden, Sullivan, Twal, and just the senior players not leading the way. Positive was Richo and the juniors in general. Needs more experience. Benji needs more experience to help him out. Defense, fitness, strength, the whole lot. And he said the lack of fitness causes stupid mistakes because of not enough oxygen to the brain. I don't know if my degree in exercise and sports science necessarily agrees with you there, but you're not too far off the mark. Decision-making under fatigue is definitely something that needs to be improved and needs to be worked on. And defence needs improvement, 100%, mate, for sure. Tony has said, Tony Finch, that is grade D, disappointment, Papali'i, fair enough. Positive, Galvin, improvement, resilience. Now, the game on the weekend, Tony, you'd be almost probably laughed at for saying that we have developed some resilience over the course of the year. But I 100% agree with you. And I know we didn't see it all the time, but we saw it enough times for me to notice it. For starters, the way that we would hang in games for long periods of time and then get pipped at the end. And even in the Manly game, you're up against a full-strength Manly who was well and truly in the top 8, flying at 16-0 up. And they come back into that game. Sin bins aside, they were doing it around those times when we lost 10. Around those times where they lost a man for 10. So, yeah, there is definitely a level of resilience within them. The trick then for Richo and the likes is getting rid of the people who were chinks in that armour. And I think we saw with an example of, say,
Steph
on the weekend. Yeah, he might well be one of them. And what pleased him is the CEO again. So Richo, Galvin getting a lot of love at the moment, as are the juniors. Frank has said grade is a D. Senior forwards with a disappointment. Positive was the younger guys' improvement. On a whole, the team doesn't seem to be fit enough. And the CEO and recruitment. So the current recruitment we've made for 2025 is something that he's very pleased to see heading into next year. Max Power has given us a C.
What a name.
It's good, isn't it?
Max Power.
Yeah, it's got something about it, a bit of gravitas.
Wasn't there a Simpsons episode where they got
It was
Homer changed
100%
name?
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Homer was Max Power.
Strap yourself in and feel the G's. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ever do that again.
Why? I can do what I want.
You're not very good at it.
I'm great at it.
Anyway, his biggest disappointment, Max Power, was Bateman and Stefano's attitude, for sure. Biggest positive was Lockie. Improvement, fitness, and defensive line speed. I like the fact that Maximus has actually said line speed and pinned in on something specific within our structures, and couldn't agree more. Our line speed has been absolutely woeful for 15 years. I don't think we've ever had a West Tigers team, probably in our history, that has been known for line speed or consistently for an entire season has good line speed. Might be forgetting their 3 good years we had. And we've got the basic ingredients to improve next year, but we need the seniors to step up. I think they will, given who's coming in. Peter McDonald's given us an E. Last game is a kick in the guts, 100%. Disappointment, there is no senior leadership. We couldn't agree more. Positive was the youth and fitness, attitude, and discipline. Discipline, I mean, yeah, that's what needs to improve for sure. Jaden has said, and I'll have Jaden and then I'll throw it back to you. You've got another little run to get through. So Jaden has said it was a D. Expect to have a bad year, but they did look good in parts. And I think Jaden and everybody and I think we've probably already said it, I'm just going to reiterate it, that last game really put a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of people and a lot of Tigers fans. And I think it muddied the waters to have an objective reflection on the season proper, given what happened, given the build-up and given the way the game played out. So if we can, over the next month or two, as we dissect our own thoughts about our club and all that sort of stuff, or as you're listening to the show, try to put the last game aside. Don't ignore it completely, but try not to let it muddy up the waters. His positive was Appy and Galvin and the way the club handles itself now. I like that, and I don't know that that's been mentioned anywhere else. It's been a whole lot better. So the way that they communicate, the way that the leaks have slowed down and stopped, the way that everyone talks about the club, been quite good. And what pleases him is that so much young blood got to debut. And it seems though that the young kids are happy, obviously not happy losing, but they're happy to be in, living their dream and with their other mates that they came through around them. And so that can be a big sign of good things ahead, he said, to want to play together, which would be a great thing as well. And then I'll just add that Kevin Hart has said it should be obvious to everyone that the future is at Campbelltown. So he's loving the support from the MacArthur region down that way, and how the club has reopened, reopened their arms to that region as well. They should, because that's our absolute gold mine for this club moving forward. Absolutely. All right, mate, I'll throw it back to you. You've got a second little run. I've got one more, and then I think we're going to get through them all.
Yeah, I've got just 3 more to go, and then I'll go back to you. So Simon Ford, not sure how to grade the season. It was frustrating to watch so many sin bins and so many unjustified. No one said that yet, so it's true. Biggest disappointment, the spoon, again. Where the club is heading. Loves Luai coming next season. We showed moments and the young guys are getting game time, but also learning how to lose. That's a really good thing too, actually. Like, a lot of our young guys have come through consistently winning. They're not used to losing. And in the NRL, unless you are the Storm or the Panthers or the Roosters, it's likely you're going to taste a lot of some losses.
So is he saying that it was a positive that they're learning what it's like?
They're learning how to lose.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, so I like that. Tristan, he is a top contributor, actually. Thanks, mate. He gave us a D-. Said that the biggest disappointment was experienced players. Biggest positive was our youth. Areas to improve, defense. And the things that pleaded in the most is the way we've gone a full 9 months without listening to the journos on how to run a club. That's great. That's great.
When I read that one, it was a full 9 months without listening. I thought that it was about to give us both barrels. But 100%, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. And then someone called Loco Ways. in 3 years, we haven't come up with one. He hasn't really given us anything. He's just given us a nice comment. But he's gone, in 3 years, we haven't come up with one different play in attack. Why are we always the only team to not have set plays? What are the guys doing during the week? What do they practice? Why haven't we started that thing other teams call a game plan in our game? Why do we always insist on the exact same style of play every game for 3 years now? And more a style, I'll add, even if perfected, isn't going to win you many games, if any. Going to dispute you on that one, Loco, because I actually think that we have improved quite heavily in set plays. I think it's very clear. I think the inclusion, I think Galvin coming to light within this year has shown that we just needed an actual half to just conduct what we need to happen. Because we had, who was the halves in our last game last year? It was Will Smith and Dane Laurie. So yeah, we actually had halves this year that could do it. And as much as I'm very disappointed with what Caesar brought this year, by the way, confirmation he's off to Hull FC next year. Caesar.
Yeah, I think is it Hull? I think it's Hull. Yeah. He's not here next year.
Yeah. He still did some things pretty good at the start of the year, and it looked like there was set plays that were working. So gonna argue that one. So
yeah, fair enough. I was thinking the same thing, but we all view the game differently. So there's some truck and everything. Absolutely. All right, mate. Brendan has said overall grade of an E. Disappointment was the lack of consistency, basically. So the boys decided when they wanted to play tough and when they wanted to put the tools down. Biggest positive, led some juniors and don't have to see Stefano in Tigers colours. Yeah, mate, that last game, Brennan, burned a few of us, I think. Yeah, wait until he comes up against us next year. It should be interesting. But the boys love him, I think, so it's no big deal. And main area to improve is the consistency, once again, week in, week out. I think, that's going to be one of the next steps to learning how to become a half-decent football team is you've got to be consistent. You can't have off weeks because then they're automatic losses and they could be automatic bad losses. And so even if you're thereabouts in the hunt at the end of the year, then you're showing up every third or fourth week. You can hope it's every third or fourth week with a bad attitude and you're not putting your body on the line, you're conceding 30, 40 points each time, it's going to hurt your differential. Ray Watkin has said it's blatantly obvious that the roster needs an overhaul, which we're doing. Some grunt up front, speedy, tall outside backs, and a good hard look at our juniors. Don't know where you're going with the juniors there, but I think we are, and there's a lot more coming, Ray, in the levels below. So just bide your time a little bit on them because we've got some waves and some names that I could mention, but we'll save it for a bit later in the year maybe. So roster overall is happening, my friend, and grunt up front. We've seen the likes of Royce Hunt come in, and we'll probably see another signing or two. I think we'll have to, especially if Bateman isn't coming back. Speedy, tall outside backs. I think we've got that in Skelton and maybe Montoya coming in. You probably couldn't ask for too many more that would be roughly available, or too much better, I should say. And then you've got your Buller at the back as well, Speedy and tall himself. All right. I'm going to really struggle to pronounce this, and I don't know if it's I'm not even going to try because I don't want to make an error, but I am going to try. So, apologies. Henri, is it? Or is it just Henry? Ipatau. Sorry, mate, if I've got that wrong. Anyway, thanks for your contribution. He says Galvin is the obviously biggest positive. Discipline, we rank third in most penalties. I think we might even be second. We were certainly first for sin bins, and the Roosters beat us in just about everything, but we're second for a lot of other things as well, so you're pretty close. And not getting a sin bin every game can't be helped due to bunker inconsistency, but surely needs improving. Yeah, mate, for sure. We're going to look to ourselves with that, I think, Toby, and not just always look outward. Ourselves will confess, often guilty of looking outward, but I think the club needs to look inward. And I could bet your bottom dollar, or you can bet your bottom dollar, that next year our discipline will be improved. If if it was to stay even remotely the same, I think that heads would roll because you cannot have that as a consistent thing, even though we did this year remarkably. Stan has said good defence and a lot more heart, and bring the pride of wanting to play for the West Tigers. Show the others how much you want to win. Andrew Carter has said has to be a fail for him. Shining light was Galvin. He said he thinks Seafarth came on in leaps and bounds, and I think he had moments for sure, but not across the board, Alex. I don't think. Disappointed in Bateman. He was ordinary. He was, mate. He was ordinary as. Next year, you need a defensive game plan. I think the structures are there. I think better players in those positions are going to make a big difference. Fatape, with due respect, great footballer, but he's a reserve grade footballer in my opinion. And he played, 15 plus games this year in starting centre, or at the least in wing. So we should improve that area, hopefully. TJ James has said he feels the Tigers have come a long way. Benji and Richo are steering us in the right direction. We have some very talented juniors coming through, and I hope we can hang on to them. We've had some great buys for next year, which will attract further interest in the club. Go the Tigers. Good on you there, TJ. Gavin has said an E. Biggest disappointment, final game. Another wooden spoon. Positive again was Galvin. Biggest area was defence and ability to control games. That's an area that needs improving. Boba Fett Kevin. Overall grade, nothing. Biggest disappointment, Buller. Biggest positive, Richo. Main area to improve is pride in Jersey and to keep it optimistic. He said the thing that pleases you most about where the club is heading. He said he doesn't like Luai, but he's the man to get some pride, anger, and passion back. So you can get behind him in that sense. Now, Murray has said the best part of the season was the development of our youngsters and the supporters. 100%. I'm glad somebody brought up the supporters and the support that everybody has given the club this year, because the club has done itself no favours on the field, no doubt, but the supporters have really backed the club, come in droves and in waves, and made a big impact. Nathan has said it's an F based on performance. Disappointment would be Buller. It's probably a bit cloudy because of the back end of the year, and he was playing injured for a while. But yeah, I do take your point there. Richo and Benji is the positive, where the club's headed, the players we're getting next year, and our young guys. And the main area to improve is defence and pride, once again. And last one from me, Josh gave us a C, 50% improvement on wins, which when you're coming from a low base is a bit easier than not. Disappointment was Bateman not working out, clearly has not. The positive was Lockie and the Fainu brothers for sure. Winning record at home grounds, which many people might not realise, but we did. Out of the way, results were diabolical, but we had a winning record at our home grounds, which was nice. And I think a lot of that can be testament to the crowds as well. And the main area to improve is ability to cope with in-game injuries, which is a really good point. We didn't cover particularly well. And most pleases him is Richo and the youth. Now, mate, that's it from our responses. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so, yep.
So, folks, I just want to reiterate to everybody, and I did, this was in the post earlier today, but I just said that, thanks all for the support this year, the feedback, the comments, the messages, in-person catch-ups, everything else that we've done. It's been, we say this every year at the end of every year, but this was Toby and I sitting down with a dodgy old potato webcam and having a yarn about a team, because I think our wives were sick of us talking their ears off each and every week and what we could do it to one another. So, yeah, thanks for taking the time, the effort today to put in those responses. Sorry if it was a bit waffly, but like I said, I wanted to make sure that we got through everybody, and I think we were able to achieve that feat, my friend.
I think we were. I think we did quite well with it, actually.
All right. To pad it out a little bit further, I don't think anybody really wants to hear what we think, but
we're going to do it anyway.
We're going to do it anyway. So, mate, we'll go turn for turn. Overall grade.
I gave us a D, the big D.
The big D. Paulie D. Yeah, so did I. Flat D. Not a minus, not a plus, flat D.
Not a pass mark, but not a diabolical fail either.
My biggest disappointment, I tried to not pick the low-hanging fruit here, and that's no offence to anybody else. There's obvious things to put in here. I tried to see if I could work around what we've already had in responses. My biggest disappointment was the inability of the team to improve discipline over the course of the year. You would think it happens so frequently and so often over a very long season that there would have been systems put in place to improve that. The exception to the rule was somebody by the name of Alex Seyfarth and possibly Samuela Fainu as well, who showed at different points throughout the year that they had an earlier problem. Samuela very early, possibly trials and last year.
Trials against the Raiders, yep.
And then outside of that, brilliant. Yep. And then Seyfarth has had issues for a long time. Drop balls, penalties, dumb plays, and in getting involved in brouhahas and in getting sin bin. And there was notable times when you could see him withdraw himself from conflict and put hands up and say, I'm not doing this. So with the exception of that, my biggest disappointment, mate, was the inability of the team, the squad, the club as a whole, to make a notable dent in that. Because I don't think they did. And the last game, errors, penalties,
sin bin
as well. Yeah. And I'm going to put execution in with that errors as well. There was very little, in my opinion, improvement in that area over the course of the season. I have no confidence, but I have full hope that it's going to be a different story next year. What about you? What's your biggest disappointment?
I think you can probably pick it. It is the leadership, the senior players.
Yeah.
I have been saying this now for probably since round 4, maybe round 5. That I'm getting very frustrated with. I was getting very frustrated with the fact that the senior leaders just weren't doing their job. Like, you can do your job on the field, but if you're a senior player, you have another responsibility, and that is to lead these youth. And 9 times out of 10, no one did it. Appy tried his hardest most weeks. He tried everything he could. And then at the end of it, it just became debilitating for him. He couldn't play his natural game. Steph, who is coming up on 100 career games, was good at the start and then fell off a cliff. Clemmer became a plotter. He did have a good game last game, but he still was a bit of a plotter most of the year. Bateman was fucking hopeless most of the year. From a leadership perspective, there were games where he was, like we talked about, how he really tied up a lot of that back row defense, the side defense. But from a leadership perspective, he was shit. And yeah, I probably can go through a few more, but Caesar, we came in to be that experienced half, and Galvin ended up being the experienced half, really. So yeah, the leadership was very, 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 very frustrating.
Yeah. All right, mate. Your biggest positive?
The youth. Like most people have said, it's we've said it week in and week out, especially in the last 9 or 10 rounds. There's just green shoots everywhere with a lot of those youth. Galvin's a very obvious choice there. But look, here's a clear example of how our youth has developed, not just this year, but the last 2 years. Who was our players' player last year and who was our best player last year? Dream Ball. Who is guaranteed to be our best player this year? Lockie Galvin. So in 2 consecutive years, the rookie has become our best player. Now, that says 2 things to me. That says, 1, we are starting to identify this really, really great young talent coming through, and we're giving them opportunities. And if they can handle it, it's not outside the realms that they can cement a first grade spot. But 2, obviously, it shows that the senior leadership's just wasn't there. So, yeah, our youth is definitely our biggest positive. You?
I'm going to say the same, and I'm going to be very specific about it. I'm going to say not, and this is not a knock on anybody who said it more generically, but I'm just saying I'm trying to, once again, provide a little bit of a different angle. The fact that the youth are now, they're not all of them. Some of them are the actual players, but they're the understudies. So they're ready to go. So they're not requiring a taste. They've had their taste. So Heath Mason comes into fullback next year when Jerome Bull is injured. Hands down. He's ready to go. If one of our halves, God forbid, goes down, Latu's straight in there. He's ready to go. TDS, he'll play a lot of hooker, I think, next year. he's ready to play first grade. Not full 80 minutes starting hooker, but he's ready to go. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sam Weller's there. He's first man up now. Same with Lockie Galvin. They've actually won their spots. They've played so phenomenally. But it's the fact that our youth we've been hearing about for a long time, they're not on the periphery. They're not on the edges. They are next cab off the rank. So they're our next up guys. And that's where you want to start to be as you then start to have them push the older guys out and take the mantle of taking over from those key spots and positions. So I think that's something that's very pleasing to me.
Yeah, no, 100%.
All right, main area to improve. For me, the main area to improve is a little bit different to a lot of other people, which is simply class in the right spots. And I think we're already doing it and have done it. Because I will reiterate, if we look at defence, I think defence was indicative of not so much the structures, but more other than something like line speed, which obviously wasn't a key focus. But I think it was more, maybe not the talent, but the willingness of the people who were in our squad this year and past years, obviously, to play that side of the ball with intensity. And I think the people that we're bringing in, and hopefully more so, and hopefully some of the young guys who are a bit more tenacious, because I've heard a lot of names and there's all sorts of players and there's some goers in there. Archie Duncombe's is one to keep an eye on. Christian Tapau-Moores is another one. Phoenix Godinay is a third. There's a few names for you. Hang on to those ones. Where we can actually improve defence through simply adding class. I think when Olam's back and fit, straight away our edge, or his edge, gets a bit better. I think Lockie Galvin's going to be more experienced on the edge. I think that our wingers are going to defend better. Would you see Skelton miss that one-on-one like you were a speed bump against Sevo on the weekend?
No.
I don't think that happens. It's going to still require a lot of people to bring the right attitudes in that regard. So mine is defence, but something within defence, which is, basically the class of the people that we're bringing in terms of other things as well, but defence in particular, and what they're going to bring to the defensive mindset. Bird is another one. He's a great tempo leader of defence. I've spoken about that with Aiden Caesar over the course of this year in little snippets. Was great, but it wasn't frequent enough. It wasn't effective enough, and he would often miss the tackle that he would shoot up on as well. So I think, and I hope, that those players that we're talking about are going to bring an intensity with them on that side of the ball, and I think that will help to improve our defence by default, because I believe our structures, whilst they might not be brilliant, aren't the key problem. What about you? What's your main area to improve?
Leadership. I can't voice that enough. Leadership has been such at times a non-existent thing for us.
Yeah.
And we need it. And I think we're going to get that in spades with Luai coming. I think that is, I think you're also going to get that in spades with Royce Hunt coming, with Jack Bird coming. I think that it's not like when Cleary brought, the likes of Packer and Madalena and all that, we thought that was leadership coming. But at the end of the day, they were both close to 30. I think they both were 30, if not over 30. They'd done their time. Whereas you look at Royce Hunt's 29, Jack Bird's 29. Luai's 27, I think. 28?
27,
so,
I think.
Yeah, we've got these leaders that still have a bit of time and still want to deliver. And that's going to be one of the biggest changes next year for me, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so this one might go for a little bit, but we are getting a bit longer too, so the show's not going to go forever. But this is probably where we're going to end the show, would be on this next little piece. I'll throw it to you. We might have a bit more back and forth on this. What's keeping us optimistic moving forward? 2024 is done.
Yep.
We've spoken about a lot of optimistic things. We've read quite a few examples of what people are thinking, what our listeners are thinking. What are you thinking, mate?
So the thing that pleases me the most is Richo. and an administration that aren't a bunch of useless twats, bar Gary Leo.
Well, he's on the Balmain board, which is separate to the whole system, so he's not part of the club.
He's still, what a dick. I think that having an administration that, for the first time in a very long time, I think I mentioned in the last pod, I can't even remember when the last time would have been this confident in our administration, is something to me more than, to be honest, something more than a Jerome Luai signing. I said it when we signed him last year in terms of he was the interim CEO at this point. Now he's signed for 4 years. Richo will be the biggest signing this club has ever had, by far, because he will turn this club into a winning football club. And I can guarantee that. I'm happy to put my house on that. He will turn this into a winning football club if he sticks around for 4 years. You know, he had surgery like mid this year, so
Keeps chopping toes off.
So
I'm hoping that Richo gets to the end of 4 years and extends.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a great reason to be optimistic, and I'm just going to bounce off what you're saying there as well. In terms of what he brings a real clarity and surety to the club. When he speaks, there's no complicated vernacular. There's no tricky lingo words, catch. Oh, actually, he has a lot of catchphrases, but no.
We're in a crocodile roll, mate.
Yeah, no overly corporate speak, like Pasco would often do. He speaks directly to the fan base in many ways, and he's unshakable and steadfast in his belief and direction that the club is going. And you can't help but be confident. And you look at, we're ignoring the game that happened on the weekend that's dead to us, but you look at what happened when he came out following the news issue that happened when you were mentioning Gary Leo and his comments, among others, about the nonsensical and almost laughable suggestion that Balmain might split from West at some point, or some people were thinking of it. And because that started to gain traction in the media and people were scuttlebutting around, he hopped on the front foot. As we said in last week's show, he set up a brief, succinct 9-minute or so Behind the Raw episode where he just basically spoke for 9 minutes, clarified everything in clear, readable, easily followed points, and just put the fan base at ease, and basically just with an honest, upfront representation of what the situation was and why it was not a drama and that they're moving forward, allowed everybody to know that. And it's the sort of person you want as your captain. It's the sort of person you want as your leader. It's the sort of person you want as your CEO or your chairman or whoever is above you. Someone who is clear, concise, and unshakable in their belief of where you're going. And I think he's got that in spades. And the fact that he's got runs on the board to the nth degree, possibly more than a lot of other administrators in different clubs, just verifies that fact even more. And so, for sure, because you could look into the future with your crystal ball and you could say, so-and-so, this big signing that comes across doesn't work out, or Benji loses the dressing room, or something happens with a salary cap situation, or some of the high salaries we're trying to move on don't budge, or we lose a major sponsor. Already done that. In none of those situations would you be overly concerned that Richo wouldn't be able to handle it and fix it.
Yep.
That's what pleases me, because this club continues to stumble over its own fucking feet for years on end. And we might still stumble, but at the very least, I'm very confident in the man leading the club to fix, tackle, overcome whatever comes our way, as opposed to it crippling our club and spiraling us downwards like it has time after time in the past.
Yep. No, 100%. And like I said, I am very confident. And this is somebody who is, if any of our listeners aren't aware, my favorite player of all time is Gareth Ellis. Love him. Love everything he's done. And when he signed, I, in retrospect, think that was such an amazing sign. It's the best sign we've ever done. It's better than that. He's just going to be something that we have been crying out for 25 years. Yes, we won a premiership in 05 and we made some finals for 2 years out of 25 years. But we have never had an administration that we are this confident in. So,
yep, very pleasing. I'm going to throw something else out about being optimistic, which is I was thinking about it today, and this is the first time in a long time that I can remember, and I know that that our season finished a handful of days ago. So there's a lot of water under the bridge between now and February, March when we're picking our first side. But our suspected side, our prospective side for next year, first time in a long time where I go through the list and there's one player that will play that position if they're available. And I'll include a likely signing, say, in a Montoya in that, or a possible signing in a Hetherington for that as well. But if you go down that list, Buller, like I said earlier in the show, Buller will be the fullback round one. Skelton will be on one wing. If Montoya comes, he'll likely, or most likely, will be the other winger. Taruva and Olam, if fit, will be the centres. Galvin will be the 6. Luai will be the 7. Appy will be the 9. Clemmer will be one of the props. Sam Weller will be the second rower. So there's not a lot of spaces in there which are doubtful or could this person do a job, or we don't really have a third, second rower. Maybe Seafarth's going to have to fill that spot. Oh, shit. Olam's out for the first 2 rounds of the year. Fuck, who's in there? So the depth still needs to be worked on underneath, but we have clarity, use that word clarity again, I feel, around what the squad and the top side can and will look like. That gives you confidence because then you can actually start to learn how these individuals work together. It seems like this year and in the last couple of years, we've just had so many changes in injuries and squad changes and ins and outs and early releases and suspensions. And it's just been absolute gobbledygook. Over the last couple of seasons, particularly this year, I'd love to know how often we kept the same back 5 from game to game. The forward rotation possibly, but we did lose a few over the course of the year there too. So that's something that I'm optimistic about, is that we're going to have a lot of surety around who our number 1 players in each position are, because that then allows us to build depth beneath it, I think, as well. And I know the competition for spots is good, but I think if we can have clarity around that, the team can have clarity, that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think, we went into the start of last year without a backup half. We went into last year without a solid lock. It's one of those first years in a while that we're very confident of what's coming through and what's going to happen in the off season.
And you got to say again, look at the spine. The spine is incredible.
Yeah.
Buller, Appy being relieved of a lot of the playmaking load and hopefully game time. I think they're going to start the tapering back a little bit.
Hopefully.
Back to his best. Galvin, Luai and Buller. Mate, that's phenomenal. So, yeah, it's just about building it around them. Anything else, mate, that you want to add in terms of game, the season, or just general commentary?
No, I think that it's definitely, it's nice to just wrap it up, if I'm honest. For our listeners, we'll most likely be a little bit more sporadic now that the year is done. I think we'll probably do a grand final preview, even though the Tigers aren't in them, but it's still the grand final. Still got to have a chat about it. We still love talking about footy regardless. And yeah, I think it's... Look, I think it's going to be hard to say, but I just really am looking forward to a break. So
I'm excited though. I'm excited to go into the off season. I miss footy. I already missed the team list this afternoon. I love it that much. But that being said, a break is good for the soul, especially when you support our club.
Yep.
But I will be starting to get pretty excited come November 1, even if a lot of our signings aren't going to be there because of what's happening with the Pacific Championship. So, yeah, a break will be good, but we will be back. Toby's 100% correct. We'll do a grand final show preview, and so your chance to hear us talk about some sides other than the West Tigers, and maybe we can shine a bit of light on what we see in the quality or the approaches of other sides as well. We're then going to probably do another show in the preseason, so around late November, a show or two. And if we have any major signings or anything else as well, we might even rustle another one pre-Christmas, and then we'll be back up and running in January as well. And we'll be all excited with Luai and the colours, and Taruva and Skelton and Hunt and Toto and
Had to throw that one in there, didn't you?
Payne Haas, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, Payne. Payne Haas. Yes, please.
All right, mate. On that
By the way, just before we go,
yeah,
you are a man that likes to keep your ear to the ground. Any new rumours that gets our tongues wagging before we sail off into the sunset?
Yes. Montoya's manager approached the Tigers.
Okay.
Very, very modest deal if it goes through. Was paying a big chunk in the first year. So I think we're looking at about $250K a year.
Whoa.
2 years is what I'm hearing. Outside of that, no, mate, not a whole lot, really. So, yeah, only to say that between now and February, January, even beforehand, there's a lot of crocodile rolls. There's a lot of trees being shaken. So there's a lot of water under the bridge. And so the players who are not yet available at the moment, as I mentioned last week, can very quickly become available. So it will be interesting to see if and what shakes loose over that period of time, and if and what we need to strengthen. And we may end up with extra signing or two as well. I think we still are short. We're still probably short at a couple of forwards almost. So
yep, I agree.
So I dare say we'll be finding out along with that roster overhaul, the types that are not going to be with us next year who are currently contracted, because I think there's a lot of names given the way that we are looking around, sniffing around. I think there's a lot of names that have been tapped and I think will be going, but it hasn't yet been announced. So I think Kelly Barnes Award, I think we find out about that. When is the Kelly Barnes Award this year?
I think I saw it in October.
Is it? Yeah, that makes sense to be after the season.
Yeah, but the Warriors have already done theirs.
I was about to say, yeah, I thought possibly that it was within.
I could be wrong there, but I swear I saw something about October, or maybe it was October. I was right.
I'm trying to find that out. Sorry, I actually can't find the date for it. Sorry, folks. The back end of the year. I can't find a date for it. Anyway, Kelly Barnes Award. Maybe we'll find out then.
Maybe.
All right, mate. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up the show?
Nah, we're done. We're finished for 2024 in terms of previewing games, getting our heart broken.
Yeah.
Time for a few months off and then some unrelenting optimism moving into 2025.
Hope springs eternal, doesn't it?
If you're a Tigers fan, yes.
All right. West Tigers Media would like to recommend West Tigers Podcast. Those guys do great work. I think they're off on a bit of hiatus now as well, but they released a show a couple of days ago. It was a great show. So tune in and have a listen to that as well. Tell them who sent you, the humble guys from the West Tigers. There we go. I stuffed it up. Humble guys from...
We can be from the West Tigers if they want to hire us.
I got to get it right. Come on now. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple is where you can find us on our platforms. Like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff. You know what to do. You've been doing it. Thank you so much. We're still setting listening records each week, which dead set make us smile from ear to ear. And we're not lying. It blows us away. So thanks once again for your support on that front as well. Thanks to our yearly sponsor, who were awesome this year. Best on Ground Digital, bestongrounddigital.com. The digital marketing agency looks after the little guy. They've been awesome. Hope to have them back again next year. We'll have to have a chat to the bosses, see what they say. But they do great work. Anything digital marketing related, they are who you want to talk to. So get in touch. And outside of that, mate, nothing more to say. But go the mighty West Tigers.
Up the Tigers.